Patrick Harvie, to be followed by Christine Graham.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I was going to begin my contribution by expressing some disappointment with the tone of the debate, given that last week's session was less confrontational and less aggressive than I had feared at the time. I do want to say that the contributions more recently from Elaine Murray and from Jack McConnell have done something to improve the tone, and I hope that the rest of the debate on both sides follows that example. I am disappointed, though, that it looks likely that we will divide along party lines. I suspect everybody in this room knows that there are members in all political parties who support the decision that has been made, and members in all political parties who oppose the decision that has been made. I want to say something about that decision and then make comment on my concerns that our debate still has the wrong focus. It's been acknowledged that the decision has been a difficult one. Richard Baker last night on television, even when saying that the decision shamed Scotland, acknowledged that it was a difficult one. Now, I disagree with his view, but I also have some concern that he's a little unclear in his own feelings. I find it hard that it can be simultaneously a finely balanced and difficult decision and at the same time a cut-and-dried one which is a matter of shame. My reasons for supporting the decision are a respect for the principle that compassion is not simply an optional extra, it is a necessary part of justice. Punishment is not the same as retribution, and when a man is facing death in a matter of months in a foreign prison, which to him ours are, further punishment becomes a meaningless concept. Robert Brown.
Thank you for giving way on this one. I wonder if Mr Harvie, though, is aware of the requirements for the legal consideration of compassionate release applications, not least that the type of offence and other matters ought to be taken into the balance. Does he not think that that was one of the aspects which has been singularly missing from some of the discussion about this? Is compassion absolutely unlimited?
Mr Harvie.
I don't say that compassion is absolutely unlimited. I say that it is the most meaningful act of compassion when it is the hardest to express. I also disagree with Ian Gray's comments last week that compassion is marked in our system by the existence of parole, of appeals, or the lack of executions. These are not markers of compassion, they are the bare minimum for a justice system to be worthy of the name. The force of Elaine Murray's contribution in asking us to recall or to empathise with the feelings of the victims' relatives, I respect sincerely. I can't imagine how that feels, nor can I imagine how it feels to be facing death in a foreign jail, still protesting one's innocence, and none of us can imagine that. Justice for none of those parties will be served by mere retribution. Justice is not served either by double standards in our differing treatment of one dying man and the government he served, one which is currently being rehabilitated by the UK and by other governments.
Margaret MacDonald.
That matter, and can I thank the member for giving way. While I also respect the comments made by Elaine Murray and by Jack McConnell, does the member agree with me that there is more than a legal dimension to the decision that was taken, and that the needs of the global population have also to be weighed in the balance now compared to what the interests were of 20 years ago?
I certainly agree that the global and the political implications cannot be separated from this, but I wouldn't argue that the Cabinet Secretary for Justice should have made a decision in one direction or the other, either based on the likely reaction of America or of Libya or of the wider world. The decision had to be made in its own terms. There is, however, Presiding Officer, a far bigger issue to consider. The location of Mr Al-Megrahi's death will soon become a footnote of history, a fact of history. If we choose to close the chapter there without ever examining the doubts which do exist and which are widely held about the safety of the original conviction, as distinct from the man's guilt or innocence, the safety of the original conviction, we will effectively bury the truth if we fail to examine those questions. The UK government seems happy to do just that. That act can never serve justice. The abandonment of truth can never serve justice, nor the perception of justice. Doubt about the conviction is not the grounds on which the decision for release was made. I understand that, nor should it have been. But I do ask members to consider this, as Jack McConnell asked members to consider an alternative scenario. I would do the same. I would ask members to consider if one of their own constituents was being held in a foreign jail, let us say in Iran, let us say in Syria. If their conviction had been so caught up in international politics and diplomacy, if the conviction had been secured on the basis of such circumstantial evidence, if it later appeared that at least some of that evidence from a key witness who had been paid millions of dollars by a foreign government with an interest in the case, is there a single member of this Parliament who would not strain every sinew to secure the release of their constituent on whatever grounds they found possible? Presiding Officer, in closing, if Parliament today fails to recognise either the shades of grey in this case, or indeed the information which still remains in shadow, then shame on us.
Christine Graham to be